Hi, my name is Taja Federick-Williams, and for my self-change project, I decided to figure out or learn how to manage my social anxiety. So my objective for this project was to learn how to manage my social anxiety in social settings so that I could enjoy and participate in social events. The target behavior I chose for this project was to attend at least three social events that were either university affiliated or outside events per week that were not mandated by either my class or organizations that I'm involved in. So they are purely voluntary events that I chose or wanted to go to. So, a little bit of background about why I chose this behavior is I grew up in Iowa, and there obviously you can see to the left there are pictures, and there are a majority of white kids. So I really struggled kind of um, going into middle school and high school, being the only Black kid in elementary school, and then transitioning from middle school and high school, where there were a lot more kids that looked like me. I just kind of had trouble fitting in with my Black peers. They, for a while, I was really kind of criticized or just made fun of, almost bullied pretty much. For acting white or sounding white. So I kind of did a lot of things to change or erase this narrative. I stopped straightening my hair. I listened to different music, watched different shows, spoke of more colloquialisms to avoid sounding white. But in the end, I felt more conflicted with my identity, and so these early experiences of bullying related to my identity created a constant and insufferable internal battle in my mind. Because of the bullying and criticism of my identity, I began to overanalyze everything about my looks, personality, interests, etc. This overanalyzation of myself developed into crippling social anxiety that I've struggled with for many years. So during the initial assessment, I there was a question about what I think maintains this behavior. And I think that my intrusive thoughts and inability to dismiss these thoughts maintain my social anxiety. Intrusive thoughts meaning like just kind of thinking that everyone is thinking about me and my looks and judging me, things like that. And it's really hard to control these thoughts. Therefore, I continue to act in a way and think in a way that is controlled by my social anxiety. So, loneliness is one of the many consequences of having social anxiety for many individuals. Unfortunately, I am one of those individuals who, more often than not, has felt very lonely due to my social anxiety. During periods when I'm feeling especially lonely, I fall into a depressive state, and I do not like this feeling as it's very hard to emerge from, which is why I want to change this behavior. There was another question in the initial assessment that asked how willing am I to change this behavior, and I'm more than willing to change this behavior and be more social. This was my first year attending A&T in person. I'd been attending the university online for the past 2 years. And when I was studying remotely, I had very little interaction with peers my age. And since the beginning of this academic school year, I have challenged myself to attend social events hosted by the university. So this is kind of where I thought of the target behavior to attend more social events because I was in person. I just wanted to get out more and enjoy the college experiences since this is my first, in-person experience. So for negative outcomes, if I do not manage my social anxiety and socialize in a new environment, I expected to continue feeling lonely and ultimately depressed. And for on the flip side, if I change this behavior, I expected to meet new people that I would call my friends and experience all of the things, events, activities, parties, etc., that typical college students participate in. So the scientific relevance of social anxiety and my target behavior. As I said, loneliness is one of the many consequences of having social anxiety. Oren Yagoda et al. 2021 examined loneliness among individuals with and without social anxiety. and the context that may moderate the experience of loneliness and the temporal relationship between loneliness and social anxiety. It was reported that individuals with SAD reported significantly more loneliness compared to individuals without SAD. Other consequences associated with social anxiety have also been reported by researchers. Shree and colleagues in 2012 used data from the Social Phobia and Anxiety Inventory 23 to observe social anxiety in college students. It was discovered that social anxiety has been associated with other problems such as substance abuse problems and increased vulnerability to other psychiatric disorders. So for my target behavior and my interventions, the first intervention I used was psychotherapy. I'd been going to my therapist for almost 2 years now, and we've just kind of been discussing some of the cognitive things related to my behavior and my social anxiety. So I have my baseline behavior here in this color. As you could see, it was very low before I did any of the interventions, mostly remained at 0 with the occasional attending one event um, per well, actually this is per week, but after implementing the first intervention, which is psychotherapy, you could see that the number of events I attended per day increased slightly for the most part, with the maximum for that week is 2 days. So that is the first intervention, which is psychotherapy. And for the second intervention, again, the baseline is the same, with pretty much 0 or 1 event per week. However, intervention 2 was pharmacotherapy, which is I was prescribed medication to help alleviate some of the symptoms of my social anxiety. And so I took that medication, and that seemed to help a little bit, increasing from my baseline behavior to this. I went from attending at least, based on this data, 4 events per week. Um, and then for intervention 3, which was the exposure therapy, and by this I mean I just kind of force myself to be in uncomfortable situations in the social settings. And that was just me either going by myself to an event hosted by the university or others, or going with a friend. So as you can see here, and this is the baseline behavior. Um, the amount of time, the number of events attended increased slightly, um, but pretty much remained at either 1 or 2. So after attempting all 3 intervention techniques, the psychotherapy, pharmacotherapy, and exposure therapy, I found that when all 3 strategies are used simultaneously, they are very effective. Exposure therapy in particular was effective because I was forced to confront the anxiety-inducing stimulus by repeatedly attending social events. I found that pharmacotherapy by itself um, was not as effective by itself because it does not force me to actively confront my intrusive and anxious thoughts. However, with the 3 intervention technique combined on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate how successful I was at changing my target behavior a 7. And I said this just because by the end of it, I was able to attend events with friends or even by myself, and I was beginning to feel more comfortable. However, I was still kind of experiencing some of those anxious and intrusive thoughts. So I would say it's definitely a work in progress. I wouldn't say I'm completely have been able to manage my social anxiety, but I'm learning how to manage it, I should say. So as a client, I learned that I have responsibilities as well. My responsibilities included being vulnerable and open, recording my thoughts and behaviors, and actively working towards achieving my target behavior goal. I was able to reflect on my intrusive thoughts, anxious behaviors, and goals by documenting them via journals. Also, I gained a few insights about being a psychotherapist. One of the main responsibilities of a therapist is to monitor the client's progress during treatment. Throughout the project, I played the role of the client by documenting my thoughts, behaviors, and goals while also role playing as a therapist by monitoring my progress during the intervention technique.